What's up, friends? Welcome back to another episode of the Pack a Day podcast. I'm your host, Andy Herman. You can follow me on Twitter at Andy Herman NFL. You can follow the podcast at Pack a Day Podcast. This is our quick hits episode of practice number 12. Can't believe we're 12 practices in already. I'll have a full breakdown of the practice on tomorrow's episode, but wanted to get some of the key takeaways out there for you guys immediately. So that's what we're going to do. Let's start with the injury side of things. Kenny Clark was a new addition to the injury list. He was off to the side on the exercise bikes alongside David Bakhtiari and Caleb Jones. It is a back injury. You never quite know, and those things are going to flare up. Insert his back was hurting because he's been carrying the defense jokes here, but hopefully it's not anything serious for Kenny. Just the way it seemed and how he was working out on the exercise bike made me believe that maybe it's not super serious, but you never want to try to glean too much from basically nothing. So we'll kind of keep an eye on it moving forward. We'll see if he's able to do any of the practices with the Patriots. My guess is he probably doesn't do team stuff. I'm almost guaranteeing he probably won't play in the preseason game this week, but still a new injury for Kenny Clark, and that's one that we'll keep an eye on. Meanwhile, Jair Alexander did return to practice. He did not do any team drills. He did do a punt that he shanked completely to the left. An awful punt. I think I would probably put him somewhere between 50 and 53 on the emergency punter list at this point. Really ugly stuff from Jair. But other than that, just great to see him out on the field in any capacity and on this specific day, doing primarily individual drills. Other players who were injured and not practicing on the day: Tariq Carpenter, Lou Nichols, Eric Stokes, Caleb Jones, David Bakhtiari, Tyler Goodson, Corey Ballantyne, Luke Tenuta, and Tyler Davis, as well as Innis Gaines. Just a real quick note on Innis Gaines. I noted yesterday that Gaines had returned from practice. That was based off of a couple other reports. I did not see Gaines practice personally. I don't know if he actually did. I talked to Paul Brettel today. He said that he saw him doing the stretching yesterday. I think this is a continuation for Gaines. I'm not sure he was actually back practicing in any capacity yesterday. It's possible that maybe there's some stuff out there that would disagree with that, but either way, he did not practice today for sure. And like I said, I think this is a continuation. I don't know that there was ever a real return to practice for Innis Gaines, but nonetheless, not a huge discrepancy one way or the other, but he was not practicing in this practice. All right, a couple players that I do want to talk about though. I don't know where else you can start, but besides with Carrington Valentine, very last play of practice. Jordan Love's, I think, maybe fallen a little bit too much in love with the quick out route. The good news is that he has been money on that throw. He has a ton of confidence throwing it. And like I said, he's done a really, really nice job with that specific throw. But he has been throwing quite a bit of them in camp, some of the short and intermediate out routes. And he's got the arm strength to do it. His accuracy on those throws has been fantastic. But he's been doing it a lot. And sometimes when you do it a lot, players start to catch up with it a little bit and start identifying trends. Carrington Valentine, again, identified it, saw that it was going to be an out route to Romeo Doubs. Love threw it. Valentine anticipated it. He jumped the route, probably a 70, 80 yard pick six to end the day of practice. His second pick six, his other one was against Danny Etling earlier in practice when Etling was still with the team. This kid has been unfreaking believable. I don't know what more there is to say. He got beat on a one-on-one, which we'll talk about in just a moment. Not concerned about that in any capacity. He had another day of sticky coverage overall, playing with the ones. All right, remember, Jair's not playing with team. He was with the ones again, opposite Rasul Douglas. Keyshawn's in the slot. He's with the ones on the outside, and he just balled out. Again, an awesome day, ended with a 80-yard pick six to end the day and win the day for the defense. I don't know what else to say at this point. And I talked about it a little bit. I think maybe it was after the preseason game or the tape study, one of the two. But at what point do you have to start considering how to get Carrington Valentine out on the field? And what I will sort of couple this with right here is I do think Keyshawn Nixon has had some struggles in coverage, legitimately. I like Keyshawn in the slot. He brings a physicality. He brings an intensity. We saw him with the great blitz for the sack off the edge in the preseason game. And he had a great pass breakup in that game too. But there have been some instances where quarterbacks have targeted him in the passing game. And I think that's going to be something to keep an eye on. Now, where I think this is going to start getting interesting. First of all, we have to see what happens when Eric Stokes comes back and what that means for the rest of the defensive backs and how that juggles things around a little bit. But right now with Stokes not practicing, I legitimately think that you have to start maybe getting in at least the idea of that on early downs or in base nickel where it's run and pass are both an option. Maybe going with Keyshawn Nixon in the slot on those plays with Jair and Rasul Douglas on the outside. On, again, some of your 1st and 10 nickel defenses, maybe a 2nd and 7 nickel defense where they could still run the ball, and you want a slot that's going to be aggressive enough in the slot. And you don't want to maybe put Jair in there because he's going to have to take on some tight ends and those sort of things like we've talked about in the past. But you still want that agility in the slot, which Keyshawn has. So I think base nickel, Keyshawn makes a lot of sense still. On obvious passing downs, I now really believe that you start to have the conversation of Jair in the slot, Carrington Valentine, and Rasul Douglas on the outside. It at least has to start being a conversation. Or maybe you at least try Carrington Valentine in the slot and see what he's capable of doing there, because he's answered every other question that you've asked of him so far with flying colors. I don't think you want to move him to safety in any capacity, but you have to start brainstorming. If we talk about best 5 on the offensive line and best 11 guys out on the field, Carrington Valentine is making an extremely strong statement of, I'm one of the best 11 guys, period, end of story on defense. And now the question has to become, if you want to stay true to your mantra, how do you get that guy out in the field? And like I said, I don't think you want to move him necessarily from outside corner. I don't know that slot is his best position. And I don't think you want to Josh Jackson him, where, remember, they put Josh Jackson in the slot. He was a off-ball zone corner completely in college. And all of a sudden they played him as a slot man corner, which did not, fit his skill set at all. I think he lost a lot of confidence in that situation and just was never the same after that. He probably would have ended up not working out no matter what. But when you get that player in there and he just isn't set for what you want him to do and he doesn't gain any confidence, that certainly doesn't help anything either. So I don't know that that's what you want to do. I don't think you want to move him to safety because he's playing so well at corner. I don't think you want to do some of that stuff, but you have to start asking the question. And the issue, again, is you don't want to play Jair primarily in the slot. You don't want to put Rasul in there because that hasn't worked. Eric Stokes is not a slot corner. So it doesn't become easy. There's no perfect, simple, easy solution to this. But for me personally, I think you have to start looking at Nixon, Jair, and Rasul on base nickel, and then Jair in the slot, Carrington Valentine, and Rasul on the outside in obvious passing downs. We'll see if they actually end up doing it and if they start using them in a couple different ways. But Carrington Valentine, another huge play. He's been all over the place. Did it in rookie minicamps, OTAs, family night, training camp. Continues to do it in training camp. The preseason game against Jamar Chase in the joint practices. He's been awesome. He has been absolutely awesome. The Packers, I hesitate to say best rookie so far because Luke Musgrave and Jaden Reed, amongst others, have been really good. Carl Brooks has been awesome, but I don't know how else you say it at this point. For how good this rookie class is, I still think Valentine's been the best. He's in the conversation for being one of the MVPs of training camp so far. That's how freaking good this guy has been. So you got to have the conversation of how to get this guy on the field more. Now, let's talk about another 7th round rookie who had a really nice day, and that was Grant Dubose, who is really in need of making up for some lost time. He did beat Carrington Valentine, who we just talked about, in a beautiful one-on-one down the field. And again, these are routes that and just situations that are not advantageous for the defensive backs in one-on-ones. So I'm not necessarily holding it against Valentine. They had an awesome matchup throughout the day. Let's just go over it right now. I was going to go over it later. But so they had 3 one-on-ones. On the first one, Valentine was extremely physical with Dubose at the line of scrimmage. Dubose couldn't get off of it. I do wonder, I think there was a little bit of a hold at the top of the route. It's possible that Valentine could have gotten flagged for that. But either way, both of them were being extremely physical. And I think Valentine got a little bit of the better of them there, unless they would have called a penalty on it. The next play, Valentine got a pass breakup on Grant Dubose, so Valentine got the best of him there. And then on the third one, Dubose ends up running a 9. He has a really nice route. It looks like Valentine thought that Dubose was going to cut off the route and kind of just hesitated for a second, and Dubose just kept going. And I don't know who the quarterback was on the play, but just beautiful deep ball. Dubose caught it perfectly at the catch point, came down with it, touchdown Grant Dubose on the one-on-one for a really explosive play. But that was the really first big play for Dubose. Then he had a really nice contested catch against Keandre Thomas. Then he had a couple of really nice short completions where he had nice separation, nice short routes, but he ran the route perfectly and got that separation so that Clifford was able to hit him with ease. And then the big catch later in team drills, he had a post route down the middle of the field, really nice route from Dubose, caught it over the middle of the field and started getting upfield right away. Of course, they blow those things dead when there's not live tackling, but I thought that was a very, very nice day. And he had a couple of really nice plays, including a touchdown in the practice yesterday as well. So he put two back-to-back really nice days together. He is doing everything that he can to make up for lost time. He did not practice in mini camps or OTAs at all. He was really late getting into training camp and being able to practice, I should say. And then, didn't get to play in the preseason game because he was still coming back. So he has to do everything in his power. Now, the good news for him is Brian does not like cutting his 7th-round picks in any capacity. So he's going to still have a very good chance to make the team. That number 6 wide receiver position, the top 5 are going to make the team. The top 4, and then number 5, in my opinion, Dontavian Wicks. And then the 6th, you've got Malik Heath, you've got Grant Dubose, and you've got Bo Melton fighting for that spot. I think that's between Malik Heath and Grant Dubose at the moment. I think Melton is behind both of them, but Melton's played a decent amount on special teams too, which is a huge indicator for that number 6 wide receiver spot normally. Do not be surprised, just throwing this in the ether right now, do not be surprised if they keep 7 wide receivers, because I don't think they're going to want to let go of Malik Heath or Grant Dubose. I think both of them have too much upside. I think Dubose has shown that just in the last 2 days, that he's got some juice and some upside to him. I don't think they're going to want to subject any of those players, any of those 7, to waivers. Do not be surprised if this team keeps 7 wide receivers. But really nice day for Dubose, and he's very much in the conversation. Even if they do keep 6, he's very, very much in that conversation for the number 6 wide receiver. All right, Anders Carlson, meanwhile, another difficult day. He missed his first extra point. I swore that the referee signaled good. Literally every other beat writer had it as a miss, so I'll take the L on that one. But apparently missed the first extra point, then made 2 field goals after that. They were shorter field goals. Then he made an extra point, and then he missed a 42-ish yard field goal, and then made from 45 after that. So he ended up 4 for 6 to start the day. And then in the team drills later, there was a situation where he needed to hit a 51-yarder to tie the game for the number 1s on offense. He hits the 51-yarder to tie the game. So that was a nice way to end practice. But he still ends 5 for 7 on the day, and including missing another extra point. So continues to be a really tough stretch for Anders Carlson, and just complete inconsistency on his part throughout basically the entirety of training camp so far. Last but not least, a little bit of a tougher day for Jordan Love. Of course, he had the pick 6 to Carrington Valentine that we talked about earlier. His 4th interception now of training camp, his arguably 5th interceptable ball or turnover worthy play. Did overshoot a couple passes as well. Jaden Reed, he was super high on early in the practice, and then had an opportunity to hit. I'm trying to think off the top of my head. There was another throw downfield. I think it was Dobbs that he had on a crossing route, and he just completely airmailed that one as well. And that's been a bit of an issue for Jordan. So a little bit of a tougher day for him. Did have a gorgeous throw to Christian Watson downfield. He got the hard count working again and got the defense to jump off sides, picking up a free play. There's another really nice throw to Jaden Reed over the middle. So there's some good stuff from Jordan too, but a pick 6 and a couple missed throws, put him in a little bit more in the tougher category, especially, with the pick 6 to end practice. So that pretty much does it. It was a disjointed day on offense overall in the Don Hudson Center with it raining out. No fans there, no real music playing or anything. The entire day had the feel of just like a Monday. It just felt like a Monday. Like the beat guys, it felt like a Monday. You could tell I don't know that they were feeling it. You could tell the players, the coaches, it just even Matt LaFleur, if the very opening line of his press conference to open the day was feels like training camp again. He was asked what that meant, of just the long days are back sort of thing. So you could just tell this had the middle of training camp, doldrums to it. And it just had that feel all practice. And it certainly was that way for the offense. He got the team midway through together because I think he felt it a little bit. And then the intensity was picked up a little bit after that. I feel like the entire training camp and preseason family night, everything up until this point has had a great intensity to it with a ton of juice and energy. This was the first practice that I thought maybe was lacking a little bit in some of that energy. And again, LaFleur tried to fix it midway through. And I think for the most part, they were a little bit more intense at the end of practice. that is going to do it for me for now. Like I said, I'll be back tomorrow with a full recap of the practice, everything else that you might have missed. Might go over a couple other things as well. We will see. Make sure to subscribe if you haven't already. We'll be right back here tomorrow with that full breakdown. But until next time, and as always, go Pack Go.